Hi Disciples, today let's learn how to play jazz music. We're going to learn a jazz standard called T for 2. We're learning the A section. The part we're learning sounds like this. Alright, cool. So you got those last two chords sort of resolve a little bit there. Make a nice little... So I want to start by asking you to do some singing. And you might be like, oh, that's not me. But I actually encourage you to really try and do this anyway because it's going to help your playing. So, I don't know, go watch this when you're all alone or whatever. Just croon it out. So the first thing you want to do is just look at the lyrics, and I'll put them above the screen here, at the top of the screen, and sing along with me if you can. I'll play and sing. Picture me upon your knee, just T for 2, and 2 for T, just me for you, and you for me alone. I play those chords underneath because they're just so nice. So if you take a look at the rhythm there, it might look a little bit scary. You've got dotted quarter notes and eighth notes, and it looks a little bit active, especially if you're not really someone who reads a lot. But don't worry too much about that. But you do want to see if you can break down the rhythmic pattern that you see in that first measure, because that's the exact same rhythmic pattern for the next for the first 6 measures, and the last 2 are just easy. All right, so let's talk about what that is. If you think about 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, so you see that the time signature is 4/4, and if we, instead of breaking the measure up into 4 quarter notes, well, that's what the 4/4 means, we're going to break it into 8 pieces, and that's where the ands in between the numbers comes in. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's 8 pieces of that measure, and that dotted quarter note takes up 3. So if you think about clapping your hands on the 1, well, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to count out loud and I'm going to clap. Try to clap and count along with me. I'll do a couple of measures in a row. Ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So you see I'm clapping on the and. So and 1 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So if you think about that, get that rhythmic structure in your hands, sort of make it intuitive, the whole rest of the first 6 measures is just going to be so easy. All right. So let's talk about the notes in the melody. So I think it's going to be helpful for you to now play the melody in your right hand. All right. So when you learn jazz, and when you learn any kind of music, you want to be as attached to it as possible. You want to sort of understand it as deeply as you can. And so melody is obviously a part of that. So the first note that you've got here is an F. And I want to show you this little pattern where you've got F, D, E, D, F, D, E. So it's almost like top, bottom, middle, bottom, top, bottom, middle. And then it's still that same pattern, but the bottom shifts a little bit. Bottom, top, bottom, middle, bottom, top, bottom, middle. Same thing, bottom, top, the top shifts back up. Bottom, middle, bottom, top, bottom, middle, low, high. Low, high is the last thing. Alone. So let me show you what those notes are. You've got an F, D, E, D, F, D, E. That's up to your knee. And then the C becomes the bottom. C, E, C, D, C, E, C, D, C, F, D, E, D, F, D, E, C, A. That's low, high. All right. So that's it for the melody part, and then you're going to see it's going to come back in later when I start teaching you a few other things here. But let's talk about the chords now, all right? Now that's the part that you're most excited about. So I'm going to ask you to once again look for patterns, just like I asked you to do with the rhythm and the melody and the notes. Let's try to do the same thing with the chords. So the first thing I want to point out to you is that the first 2 measures, or the first 4 chords, you've got, if you look just the left hand, G, C, G, C. Cool. And because that first chord is a G minor 7, we're going to play a G minor chord plus the dominant 7. So here are the notes. You're playing the G with your left hand, a B flat, a D, and an F with your right hand. So I'll sing while I play the chords through here, okay? Picture me. Now, if you see what happened here, I'm going to actually play it a little different with my right hand. So I know my left hand is normally playing this G, like I showed you. But if I play with my right hand, you'll see that the G minor 7 to the next chord, which is a C7, all I have to do to get there is to move these top 2 notes down 1 white note each. So we've got G, B flat, C, and E. And that repeats. So G minor 7, C7, G minor 7, C7. All right, and meanwhile, the left hand, I'll do that one more time for you, and I'll show you. The left hand is bouncing between the G's and the C's. G minor 7, C7, G minor 7, C7. All right, now this next move, your right hand is going to leave the top 2 notes where they are, and the bottom 2 notes are going to slide down to this F and the A, like this. So the 2 closest white notes lower. So that's an F major 7, F, A, C, and E. It's a major 7 because it's really close to the F. It's in the major scale, the F major scale. Just T for 2. Now, for this next one here, I'm gonna ask you to play it like this. We'll do it like this actually. You've got a B flat in your left hand, and play an F, an A flat, and a D in your right hand. All right. From there, it's going to move to an A minor 7, so your left hand is going to just go down a half step to an A, and your thumb's going to come up here to this G, and you're going to play a C and an E. And 2 for T. T, I'll ask you to play like this, or you can even play it like this. Play it like this. You get a G sharp in your left hand, a B, a D, and an F in your right hand. Okay? So I want to back up just a little bit and show you what the left hand is doing to help you understand a different pattern that's going on. So you've got doo, doo, it's a fifth away, doo, doo. And then the next move, so that is your G, C, G, C. Then the next move is an F to a B flat, and it's going to sound similar. It's a fifth away. Just like the first part, it almost is like our ear is expecting it because it's sort of repeating that pattern. But instead of coming back up and doing it again like you might expect, the left hand just kind of walks down half steps to get you back to the G minor. So let me show you again. G, C, G, C, F, B flat, A flat, A flat. So G. These half steps, our ear is really good at hearing those and following along with us, especially with bass notes. So it helps us get back to that G pretty easily. So here it is one more time. G minor 7, C7, G minor 7, C7. Here's the F major 7. Watch the left hand go down to the B flat 7. It's going to keep walking down, A minor 7. Keep walking down to the G sharp diminished 7. All right, now it's going to kind of start, and the next 4 measures are similar to the first 4. You're going to go back to that G7, G minor 7, G minor 7, C7, and you repeat again just like the beginning. And just like the first part, you still play an F major 7, except the difference is you hold it out, and then the next chord you do is an F6, and the way you get there is you just move this E down 1 note to a D. And there it is, your F6. So quick review of the chord. G minor 7, C7, G minor 7, your knee, C7, just T, F major 7, 4, 2, B flat 7, and 2, A minor 7, 4, T, G sharp diminished 7, me, G minor 7, for you, and you for me, alone. And on alone, we're going to do an F major 7, and then an F6. So you count that F major 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, F6, 2, 3, 4. All right, cool. So those are the chords. Now, I want you to try and we're talking about how to play jazz here. So we want to flesh that out a little bit instead of just the chords. And I want you to try and bring the melody first as an exercise into your right hand. And you'll notice that most of the time the melody sits to the right of the hand and the right of the keyboard, because higher pitches tend to cut through a mix. So we hear the higher pitches. That's why sopranos often sing the melody. And you'll notice that your pinky, when you do this, is kind of getting a lot of work, but that's okay. So if you've been learning the chords the way I showed you, I taught them to you in what are called inversions, using a specific inversion, so that the melody sits on top already. So watch what happens when I try to add the melody, and my pinky's going to be playing it. So first we get that G minor 7. Picture me. And look at how my pinky just ends up right where that chord is that I first showed you for the C7. Upon your knee, just T. Again, the melody's at the top. For 2. Again, the melody's at the top. And 2. Melody's still at the top. For T. Now this time the melody's here and we play this extra note. That's okay. Just me for you, and you for me. So now my pinky's jumping all the way up here. Alone for that F major 7. So I'm adding a note on top for the melody. And then there's the 6 that comes down. So let me do it one more time without me singing. Cool. So that's the melody there. Now the last thing I'll show you in this case is a way to think about improvising. Now, if you look at the key signature, you know that the B's are flat. So we're thinking maybe an F major in the key of F major, especially because it's kind of got like that. It ends on an F major 7 chord. That's good, a pretty good hint. So these are our notes in an F major scale: F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. And you can get back to that F there. So if you just remember the B's are flat and all the other notes are white notes, that's a quick way to remember. And if you look at the chord symbol, so the first one is a G minor 7. Look at this. The G minor 7 fits right in that scale. It's using all the notes from that scale, and that's not unusual. So if we play those same notes, but we start on a G instead of an F, watch what happens. It's actually a G Dorian scale. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. It has a nice dreamy quality. One of my favorite modes. Alright, so if you just think about that pitch collection, but you start on the note that corresponds with the chord, so the next one would be a C7. So you're going to play all those notes, but the B's are flat. That's actually C mixolydian. On Broadway. C mixolydian has that. So if I were to be improvising here, I'm going to try and speed this up a little bit for you. So the first chord is a G minor 7. And I'm thinking about the scale where, you know, the F major scale, but I'm going to start on the G. To a C7. So I can play any of these notes in any sort of pattern I want. And you can sort of mess around and make up little patterns. It goes back to the G minor 7. Switch to the F. All I'm doing is thinking about those same patterns, but I'm starting on the F. Same for the B flat. Now this A minor 7, same thing. And then we get to this G sharp diminished 7, and here's where you might want a different scale for that one chord, because you'll notice this G sharp is not in our our sort of palette of pitches that we used before, then neither is this B. These ones are. So what I'm going to recommend is the whole half is an altered scale where you start with a note. We're going to start with the G sharp, and you're going to go whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, and then the half step will get you back there. So it's you alternate whole and half steps, starting with the root. Okay, so in this case the G sharp, and you'll notice these are the black notes that we're playing, and you try to see this as like a group pattern. I see it as two groups, so that I can play this scale fast. So I'm gonna play the chords really slowly, and I'll do like a little improv so you can see. So some of the other stuff I'm doing there is I'm kind of playing the notes in more than one octave and changing the inversion to get a little feel. But that's not the most important thing. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to show you other sections of the song. A really nice song, has a very conventional jazz form, which we'll talk about later in future videos. I'm going to also link to a document that I'm working on that you can use to know what scales you might play over different chords. And hopefully that'll help you if you're interested in improvising.